much Charlie Kirk sucks. I think there's a little bit of everybody who's like, man, he just sucks, you know? Like, even if he was, I think even in Charlie Kirk's best case scenario, he would be a guy people didn't really care about and care for. And here we are. He has to be purely detestable. So here he is yelling at the college kids again. Old man goes to the college campus. Lib claims MAGA is a cult, but nearly passes out after learning it might be the other way around. Okay, let's see what cults are.
My statement / question is, would you agree / disagree that the Make America movement, Make America Great movement, again, MAGA movement, is a cult?
No. Why don't you explain to me and the audience what is a cult?
Of course. Okay. Do you know any characteristics of a cult?
Sure. I mean, you could take the Jonestown death cult, of which there was a charismatic leader that constantly lied people, and they took him out of everyday normal life and leads them towards ostracization and cutting off of family ties.
Okay, so MAGA? That sounds exactly like fucking MAGA. What do you mean? I brought up the characteristics of cults: charismatic influence, authoritarian control, isolation tactics. Like, every day on Fox News, they're like, yeah, your family who doesn't love you anymore, fuck them. You know, those people that you've gotten out of your life, get rid of them. Manipulative speech, narcissistic traits, exploitative behavior.
Am I getting closer to describing the Democrat Party?
According to the... No. What I'm talking about is MAGA.
The Democrat Party? Huh?
Yeah.
If we just say it's the Democrats, like, I wish that the Democrats had a single charismatic leader. What do you think, fucking Chuck Schumer runs a cult of personality?
According to the Bethune Cook University website, characteristics of a cult include isolating members and criticizing them for leaving. Would you say that members of the MAGA movement will criticize others for leaving?
Well, yeah, I mean...
Well, yeah, but it's not just that, right? It's like I'm not gonna put you in my will type shit. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fucking kick you out of the family. You're not coming to Christmas. You know? It's not just like you're gonna disagree with them. You're just like, you'll kick your kids out. You'll mistreat them.
But you guys criticize players that transfer out of the University of Tennessee football team. That's not a cult.
So that's not the type of criticism we're talking about, though. Of course, Charlie, we're talking about like ostracization, not just criticism, like keeping them from expressing themselves, I guess, in their communities, and disallowing them from platforms, getting rid of their means. And you do this a lot, especially with younger people who don't have a lot of options in MAGA parent households and stuff. Like, they're often disenfranchised.
Okay, what about the absolute authoritarianism without meaningful accountability?
Yeah, what about authoritarianism without meaningful accountability? Like the checks and balances system in the government right now. But of course, because this person is just an untrained college kid, he's gonna spin it and be like, no.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that, like, what
you're trying to say is,
leader says the leader gets, basically.
Yes, Trump.
What the leader says the leader gets. No, it's not just that. It's authoritarian control. It's beyond that. Like a kid sometimes can get what they want, and that's not authoritarian control, right? That is just like an acquiescing like parent or whatever. This is we're talking about authoritarian control, where you take away the checks and balances, Charlie, but you're trying to get away from that. So you can just say, oh, so you're saying when a leader gets what he wants, oh, actually, Joe Biden did executive orders or something like that. Watch.
We have lots of disagreements in the MAGA movement. In fact, I'm more pro-life than the president is. In fact, a lot of people in this audience would have differing views maybe on where the president is at on Israel or Gaza or Ukraine or Russia. In fact, some people in this audience might say the president is not as pro-Second Amendment as they would like. I would argue that we actually have far more intellectual diversity.
I totally disagree with that. I 100% disagree with that. How many of you are fucking atheists in this crowd? You know what I mean? Like, how fucking many? How many of you are against are for abortion altogether?
In the MAGA movement than your traditional Democrat Party.
Democrat? The Democrat Party? Disagree. Demonstrably so. Liz Cheney literally voted with Trump 99.9% of the time. Damn, that's her voting record? That's crazy.
I see where you're going with this and stating that not every person who, I guess, supports Trump is fully supportive of him, but I'm saying the MAGA movement who will agree with him no matter what.
But that's not what she's getting flustered, and this is why he does the college kids, right? Because he gets to sit there and draw a crowd, and then they'll get nervous because they're not used to this. And then when anyone comes up that knows anything, he gets scared of them, like them lib kids on TikTok. You know the kids. Dean and that other kid, they're very good at this, by the way. He gets scared of them.
Well, I actually think that there's more depth and complexity to the MAGA movement than you would imagine. A lot of people here who would consider themselves to be part of the MAGA movement, they won't blindly sign on to everything that Trump does.
I fully disagree. You're just making shit up. Like this is like what I'm talking about before with the whole like people you just say stuff. Like he's just saying stuff, and then she is forced because she doesn't know how to like talk to this guy. Like she is forced to just acquiesce and say, well, okay, because he can come up with to say something sounds reasonable. And when we know like the theoretical MAGA guy can exist within this like framework that doesn't agree with everything Donald Trump does, but it's obvious that it doesn't fucking matter when we're talking about the politicians and the people in fucking charge of the government. The people around can't be fucking authoritarian. They can be in support of authoritarianism. The people who said Elon didn't Sig Heil, for instance. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a great example. Like, he can't even do the fucking Sig Heil. When you ask him to recreate the fucking movement, he refuses to do it. He can't even do it.
However, they will say that they agree with them 8 out of 10 times or 9 out of 10 times. And so I would say, though, you know what was a cult? What was a cult is what we lived during COVID. During COVID... And allow me to build out the argument that no matter what the CDC or Anthony Fauci would say, you would have the little talking heads on television parrot it back.
Dr. Fauci!
No matter how insane it was. We must close the schools, 6 feet to slow the spread, wear a mask while showering. Okay, I made that one up. But, I mean, the point being is that far more had characterizations of what a cult would be than the traditional Make America Great Again movement.
I fully disagree. I think, for example, you guys have iconography behind you right now where you handed out a bunch of little fucking hats so that they could virtue signal that they're part of, like, this shit. That's cult shit. When he is literally doing unconstitutional things, the thing that you say that you care about a lot, he's genuinely doing unconstitutional things. And you disregard it. And you're like, no, that's fine. That's cult shit. I mean, it is what it is. You guys are in the apparatus of misinformation. Charlie Kirk is a part of this apparatus. And due to the just like, I can just say what the fuck ever. This is why they try to defend free speech. But when it really comes down to it, it isn't about freedom of speech because then you'd be able to criticize Israel. Instead, it's about the freedom to be able to lie for profit. That's exactly what freedom of speech arguments are from the right. I want to be able to lie to people and make money while I do it.
Okay, but you could also argue the side that Fox News does the exact same thing, where they just regurgitate everything that the right media is saying, and people on the right will believe anything Fox News says. And I'm not defending CNN. I'm not saying the Democratic Party is perfect. I'm just saying that there is a movement of conservative people who support Trump who will do it no matter what.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get to where you have come to this opinion. I'm trying to understand it because I see something completely different.
I do not use CNN as my news source, by the way, just so you know.
Good for you. Apparently you haven't been in an airport recently because the only people that watch CNN is if you're walking through an airport. So I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, and by your own definition...
Every single time, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, reframes the question, ignores the question, changes the topic. This is his shit. All he has to do is just reframe it into whatever he wants to talk about. And she doesn't know what stay on fucking topic.
of a cult.
It's not my own. It's a legitimate.
Fine. So let me ask you a question. A cult would probably convince people to do something that would be against their humanity. Would you?
Would be against their better interests, against their humanity. Yes, absolutely. Racism, allowing billionaires to control the most of the wealth, and thinking that trickle down, for instance, is a viable financial way to run capitalism, to brainwash people into thinking that they do not deserve Medicare for all, to in lieu of seeking profit over people's health care. Like the kind of propaganda that Donald Trump runs when he says that Russia is defending themselves against Ukraine, for instance, or that we're gonna build on Gaza and there's no fucking people there or whatever. Like, it's crazy. It's genuinely insane. These are all false narratives that are used as propaganda to get their way in certain aspects.
You agree?
Yes.
A cult would probably get people to do something that they know is wrong, even though they think they should do something is right.
No, I would say that it would make them think something is right, even if it's against their self-interest. They'll be convinced that to do something that they think will help them, but in reality does not. So, no, I do not like your definition whatsoever.
Maybe, because some of these people are brainwashed into believing certain things that they don't actually agree with because they don't have the proper information on it.
So, for example, would you agree that when the...
Climate change, Charlie. Climate change. The science is in on climate change, and you know it's real. You know it's fucking real. Yeah, cuts are off, of course. I was watching a thing earlier. Did everyone see this clip? Maybe we should just watch it. Yeah. Climate scientist explains what changed her conservative father's mind on climate change. This is an interesting argument. Just listen to it. It's silly. I think it shouldn't take this, but if it's going to work on a Republican, it might as well be something like this. Listen to this.
I would love to say that I changed my dad's mind about climate change, that his beloved daughter, who he talks to every week, finally brought him around. And
by the way, she's a scientist, a NASA scientist.
He has come around on climate change, but that's not what changed his mind. The thing that changed his mind was insurance companies. The fact that every insurance company has a climate scientist on staff, and insurance companies are all pricing in climate risk. There's no financial incentive for them to do that if it wasn't real. If it wasn't real, another insurance company could come along, undercut the market, and offer insurance at much cheaper rates, but they don't do that because they know that it's real. And
right. They would undercut the market, meaning give people cheaper insurance rates than everybody else, but they know they can't because climate change is so real and so obvious that they would be fucking themselves if they offered those prices because they just have to count it in their math.
My dad was like, well, if capitalism says it's real, it's real.
If the greediest people in America think it's real, then that tells me something. Genuinely tells all of us something about this.
Anyway, Pablo Torre Finds Out is a fantastic, fantastic show. So anyway, that's a great example of brainwashing and Fox News telling its constituents to not believe in it. And I guarantee this fucking guy right here doesn't think climate change is real, for instance. And I guarantee this fucking guy doesn't think climate change is real. And maybe this idiot.
Democrats sat during the State of the Union address to not applaud a kid with brain cancer. That is cult-like behavior.
Look at the 10 hottest years on record. Look at the timestamps. 13 hours ago. Earth's 10 hottest years on record are the last 10.
Because their leader told them not to do it. I mean,
well, who told them not to?
Exactly. I mean, their leadership told them.
So who's their leader? If
well,
they're a cult,
Chuck
then who's their
Schumer
leader?
or Hakeem.
Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries are the cult leaders, Charlie? Really? You think Chuck fucking Schumer is capable of having the charisma to run a cult? Charles Kirk. Shut the fuck up.
Jeffries, they had
Hakeem Jeffries. Yuck.
Strict orders, do not stand and applaud for anything Trump does. They told us this.
Yes.
And so then Trump says, hey, can we just have a moment of non-political? Here's DJ Daniel. He's dying of brain cancer. He's now...
And then Donald Trump immediately defunded cancer research. Cool.
A ceremonial member of the Secret Service. And every Democrat sat with their arms crossed, not even being able to show the humanity. I mean, that's a cult.
Okay.
I fully disagree. I think, in fact, it's the opposite. This is Hitler Youth shit. You're deputizing some fucking kid with cancer while defunding the research that helped save his life. The literal hospital that kid went to in Texas was defunded. Incredible. Great job, Charlie. Yeah. So what we're seeing is the cult in action. While she may not be able to articulate it here because she's a kid at school, surrounded by a bunch of fucking freaks that are cheering her with everything Charlie Kirk fucking utters, you can see, as you just look at the words he's saying. He's just fucking wrong.
To respond to that is simply one example, and I'm sure you can pull a bunch other out. And I'm not saying that...
With the stock market at record highs.
Cool. With the stock market at record highs, I mean, it's obvious that he recorded this ahead of time, but it's pretty clear that this is... Your head's humongous. I'm sorry. I was going to talk about the stock market and how it's doing poorly. Your head's fucking crazy. Your skull's nuts. That's just crazy. We got to move on. I can't fucking... This angle, way better.
I believe that what they were doing was standing against Trump's hypocrisy and his narcissism and his way of like making himself look good by using other people who are marginalized to make himself look good.
She's not very good at articulating this, but she's right? Like, what he's doing is using this kid as a token, and like propping him up and saying, look, I like a kid with cancer. It's the most fucking vile, like, cynical, look at this cancer kid I've ever seen in my fucking life. And you should be disgusted and embarrassed that you're trying to clutch your fucking pearls over this, Charlie. Oh my God, the cancer. If you cared about cancer kids, you would be for single payer health care. You're not. Instead, you're for the insurance companies to be able to profit off of children that are dying from cancer, and the parents willing to mortgage their house 3 or 4 times over to try to get that kid to be alive because they love their child. You're a disgusting freak. You're actually a disgusting freak.
So here's my suggestion, and take it for whatever it's worth.
I'm going to totally ignore what the fuck you said.
Calling the opposition political movement a cult when the other one that you happen to be more allied with is obviously much more of a cult is not helpful.
Okay, then tell me. Tell me how it's a cult. Tell me how the Democratic Party is a cult
this?
compared to MAGA.
I'll give you another I mean, you asked me for more examples.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we give an example of, like, I don't even... First of all, fuck the Democrats. This is a bad argument. Second of all, not even fucking close. Name their leader, and you name 2 guys that everybody fucking hates. You're bad at this, Charlie. It's crazy how bad at this he is, but it's effective on these dumb idiots. It's like you have to be good enough to get dumb idiots to go, yeah, but not too good to drive them away with making any articulate point because they won't be able to follow you there. It's so frustrating. This is the kind of disinformation I'm talking about.
The day of the State of the Union address, all 22 Democrat senators repeated the very same video on social media, mindlessly like robots.
What video?
The video where they said, something is effing out of control and this is not right. You guys all saw that video. Repeating the same incantation with not even like an iota of creativity or ingenuity.
So when I see Fox News say DEI every single fucking day, all over the place, just constantly, when I see you guys repeat that over and over and over, and you repeat every single thing and every word and every sort of buzzword, MAGA, make America great again, right? Like all of these are slogans, woke, yeah, all of it. Like what are you talking about? You guys are fucking NPC dialogue trees every single time. Trans, woke, DEI, yeah, shut the fuck up.
Like just repeating it like as if they've been hypnotized into a... Got it.
I have not seen that video.
Well, you should.
I haven't seen that video, so the cult isn't very effective, right, Chuck?
But again, I'm not even the one that is up here throwing around the cult word towards the Democrat Party. I just think it's a supremely rich accusation to say the MAGA movement is part of a cult, when evidently, based on the own standard that you put forward...
It is. I can go over it again just because, charismatic influence. Cult leaders often possess charisma that captivates and influences followers, making them highly persuasive, which is, of course, what's happening here. Donald Trump is a goofy fucking character. He should just be pushed to the margins of society and be a funny old man saying dumb shit. But instead, he's a fascist. Authoritarian control. They maintain strict control over their followers, dictating beliefs, behaviors, and personal lives. Literally down to your free fucking speech. Literally down to it. Your freedom of expression. That's authoritarian control. Isolation tactics. Cult leaders frequently isolate followers from friends and family, creating dependency on the leader in the group. This is classic. You have estranged MAGA family members. There are members of the family all throughout America. Everybody has crazy MAGA family. They are isolated. They are told by the propaganda wings to isolate from their families. Oh, don't invite the crazy libs over for Thanksgiving. Only watch Fox News. Don't watch any other media channel. Exploitative behavior. They may exploit followers financially, sexually, or emotionally, prioritizing their own interests over others. Let us raid the American coffers to enrich myself and my billionaire funders is obviously financially exploitative, not to mention the Trump coin pump and dumps, not to mention the fucking all the Trump merch shit. Obviously, he's been found guilty in court of raping E. Jean Carroll. Exploitative behavior covered by Trump. Narcissistic traits. Do I have to go into how Trump is a narcissist? Much more. Manipulative speech. They use manipulative tactics to control and distort reality, such as lying about eating the dogs and cats, for instance. Such as lying about fucking everything. It's a cult, man. And of course, Charlie's part of it. He profits off of it. He don't care if it is or not. Jan 6 is a good example of mobilizing it.
The Democrat Party embodies those characteristics far more than Republicans or conservatives ever.
I genuinely disagree. I am trying... Who's the... Please, Charlie, rocking a hard place. Tell me the charismatic influence in the Democratic Party. Tell me who the charismatic leader of the Democratic Party is, Chuck. Uh-huh. Which one of them wields the authoritarian control? Where's it at? The best you could say is they also are pro-cop? So I would say this is closer to like they're closer to authoritarian, which is one facet. No isolation tactics on the left in general. We're fractured because, liberals don't really represent us, though they have a lot of the systemic power. And then, being on the left involves skepticism of systems. And so we have some disagreements there. Exploitative behavior. I think financially, sexually, emotionally prioritizing their own interests over others. I think the most exploitative that libs get is like some of the benign, like some of the normalized stuff that Republicans do, like as well, like enriching themselves off the stock market or taking billionaire donos. Narcissistic traits. I mean, like fucking a few of them, I guess, but no, I can't think of one specific narcissistic Democrat that I'm annoyed with right now. Joe Biden. Manipulative speech. I mean, they lie, but it's like when they lie, it's like on behalf of Israel. That you both do that. That's a wash.
Or have or ever will.
So one of the main aspects of a cult is a leader, a charismatic leader that people will follow blindly no matter what. The leader of the MAGA movement is Trump. Who are you stating the leader of the Democratic Party is that people will follow blindly without questioning no matter what?
Well, Obama?
I mean, there's...
and I'm hearing tons of different examples, so that can just tell you there's
she's doing a great job here.
One.
Okay, again, so it could be Obama. It could be
Obama. So this is a great opportunity here to be like, see, Chuck, you can't figure it out.
Rachel Maddow. I mean,
Rachel Maddow?
The point being is that
it's not a cult, you fucking idiot.
Even think it's the strongest argument to call either party a cult. That's not why I'm up here. I'm simply just playing the same frequency that you're coming at. That based on the definition.
So based on the definition, you're wrong because you literally are describing less culty aspects when you're trying to assert that actually the Democrats are more culty of the two. You're making the opposite argument when you talk about it out loud. You're just not capable of thinking, I guess, Charlie. In front of all these people, it must be pretty embarrassing.
Democrat Party is far more mindless and far more of a Borg, to use a Star Trek analogy, than the Republican Party or the conservative movement.
I fucking disagree. You guys vote lockstep with what he wishes. There's no Republican dissent whatsoever. What are you talking about?
And so, but here's something I do want to ask, though. If you are positing that it is a cult, do you think this entire audience is part of a cult and they don't realize it?
Yeah.
I think that
Yes.
my statement was the Make America Great Again movement is a cult. I'm not saying the conservative party is. I'm saying the far-right MAGA movement is a cult. I will say that I believe in my heart that there are certain people in this group who could be characterized as someone who is in a cult.
Boo! I'm not in a cult! Yeah. Do you hear yourself? Yeah. That's an example of you being in a cult. Like, you don't even take the consideration.
Okay. I mean, I think that's insane. And I'm not here to give Democrats advice, but it's so destructive to our politics to call people that just won a national electoral landslide and the national popular vote as part of a cult. Maybe instead it should be, maybe they have better ideas than we do.
No, I definitely think it's a cult. They don't have better ideas at all. I think they have definitely a better political plan than the Democrats, I guess. But that's not like... I still think the Democrats have better ideas. That doesn't change it.
Maybe they just... Maybe they had billions of dollars to put into their campaign funding that got them the awareness.
Hold on. I mean,
That's true. It was purchased.
you seem well-intentioned. So who spent more money in this election, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? It's
Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? Who spent more money, Elon Musk or Donald Trump?
not even close. It's 3-1 more money was spent by Kamala and her affiliated super PACs than Donald Trump.
Do you have the numbers?
Yeah, you can go to opensecrets.org. You can look at all the outside groups, the hard money that Kamala raised, the super PACs that they raised. Democrats, by the way, do you know that 8 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat? Do you know the wealthier you are in America, the more likely you are to be a member of the Democrat Party? That the more, if you work with your hands and...
No. That's only true up to, like, a certain point. If you are sort of, like, upper middle class and college educated, you're more likely. But if you make it into the billionaire class or upper millionaire, like, into the Wall Street era, you're not, right? They want to corporatize everything. This is disgusting. What a disgusting political situation.
you don't graduate from college, that you're less likely to be a Democrat. Now, one of your, fellow cult members just screamed.
If you don't graduate from college, you're less likely to be a Democrat. Wow. And so, of course, they've been going against education forever because as you get educated, you are more likely to be opposed to fascism and authoritarianism. And that's not by mistake. They are aware of this. They've been aware of this forever. They've talked about it openly. The Reagan administration talked about this.
At me from the audience saying, well, that's because, they're so educated. Do never conflate everybody, credentials, with an education. Just because you have...
Yeah! Because I'm Charlie Kirk and I dropped out, but also because truck drivers, if you drive a truck, you know about politics real good. You understand real good about stuff. And that's right, yeah. Look, I think we should educate everybody, and even truck drivers should know that fascism is bad, and we should teach that shit in fucking high school. And not just fucking watch World War II documentaries and go, ooh. No.
A lot of degrees does not mean you have the most important thing.
A lot of degrees doesn't mean you have the most important thing. Nobody would give me any degrees, so they're not good, actually.
Wisdom. Wisdom is different than a credential. Now,
Yeah, wisdom is different. Yeah. Look at all these wise Tennessee volunteer fucking MAGA kids. Ah, yes, the wisdom. such an ephemeral, undefinable thing. Whereas you could look at someone's credentials and see, are they an expert certified by their peers in this field? No. But Charlie Kirk has wisdom, so please don't believe in climate change.
Now, I can tell that you're coming after this from a good perspective. So my last homework assignment for you is this. I want you to go find 5 people with a MAGA hat once this event is over and talk to them. And then I want you to say what you said to me. I want you to first accuse them of being in a cult, because if you can say it to me, you can say it to them.
Sure.
And then I want you to have a
trying
good
to intimidate her. What the fuck? Go up to all these random people in this crowd. Because if you could say it to them, to me, you could say it to them. Say it to my face. Wow.
faith conversation, because we are not going to bring this country together, of which is actually our goal here as part of the MAGA movement, which is why we have an open mic. If you go around,
we have an open mic unless you're a fucking immigrant, unless you're trans, unless you're queer, dude. And then it's like, hey, you can't be that way. You have to be you're supposed to be like a upper middle class white person and a Christian. That's the only way to live.
People as if we're following Charlie Manson.
You just did the same thing to me.
Well, in all fairness, I said if this is the standard of our dialogue right now, the Democrat Party is far more of a cult than the Republican Party. That is not a contention that I throw around lightly, but it is. You satisfy the requirements way more than the MAGA movement.
No,
you haven't asked me enough questions to know that.
Dude, literally, Charlie just says, no, you actually. Nuh-uh. You did. You said that mean thing, and I think you're that. Fucking sick burn, Chuck. Crushing it.
Well, that has nothing to do with what I've said.
Yes, it does.
I mean,
you haven't asked me if I would blindly follow some leader of the Democratic Party, which is no. I would only follow if I do the in-depth research of an unbiased source to get my information, and then I base my opinion off of that.
Fair enough. Can you give me an example of an unbiased source?
I mean, like Mayo Clinic or just like any EDU source of college information.
I'll end this. If that's your idea of a biased source,
Off the top of my head.
I would encourage you to dig deeper and be more of a free thinker.
Yeah, be more of a free thinker instead of agreeing with peer-reviewed journals. This is why they're so anti-intellectual. Because the claims they make don't stand up to scrutiny, any of them from the right wing, whether it's economic or fucking religious. And then when they are scrutinized, people are like, no, this is not a viable worldview. And so they go, well, then you're bad. They literally, they can't stand science.
I will, and I am a free thinker. And I grew up in a conservative household. And once I left my parents and their beliefs, and I moved to college in a very conservative state, I actually become more progressive.
Okay, and so how is your relationship with your parents?
I mean, it's fine. We don't agree on most things, but...
Wait, so they didn't kick you out for having a different opinion? They're terrible cult members. Wait, they still love you?
There are so many fucking parents that do. Are you kidding me? This is debate, I guess. Your parents didn't kick you out?
You for who you are, and do they pay your tuition?
Nope.
Okay,
I pay my own tuition. I pay everything on my own.
Well, good. Then they're even better parents. They make you pay for your own stuff. The point, so you can't even point to your own family as being part of a cult. They still love you. They still talk to you.
I would go as far to say, and if they're watching this, I do believe that my parents are in a cult. But
I agree. Ew, no.
Do you understand how damaging that is? To go around to say the people who raised you and nurtured you and brought you into the world that you're a cult because some professor told me the definition of a cult in an anthropology course.
Nope.
Not an anthropology course. not a professor telling me from an anthropological point of view what human behavior is like as if it's their fucking profession. Yeah, man. This is covering your face. This is an insane way to edit the video. Why isn't there just like 2 here?
You're wrong.
You're wrong. True. True. Anyway, that was a pretty bad performance from Charlie. That's too bad. You'd like to see better from a man with a head so thickened. You'd like to know it was for something, you know? It had a purpose. I'm sorry to report that the thickness in his head is vestigial.